say a special good morning to our listening audience. What I mean, those of you who are listening via Classic Radio 105.5 and 105.9. Our viewing audience, those of you via GBN TV, channel 7, 11, and channels 20. Good morning. Let me say good morning also to our viewers and listeners via social media platforms. First, the Facebook page, good morning. The YouTube channels, good morning. GBN's webpage, good morning to you, and welcome to another edition of To The Point. It's Thursday, the 18th day of May. I'm your host, GT, and on Thursdays we do accommodate various departments within the Royal Grenada Police Force, and this morning we do have the Special Victims Unit Department. With me this morning, of course, as I always say, ladies first, we have Inspector Maureen John with us this morning. Good morning to Inspector John. How are you this morning?
Good morning, and I'm doing well, thank you, this morning.
And we also have Corporal Kimber Coutain with us this morning. Good morning to you also, sir. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing fine. Good morning to you, GT, and the listening public.
All right. Well, welcome once again. And today's subject matter that we're going to be, of course, putting some attention is it's a pretty interesting one. Some folks would say a touchy one for some reason, the other bit of the nature in which the Royal Grenada Police Force get involved in terms of, a subject matter of that nature. We're talking prevalent sexual offenses. And from time to time, we hear the conversation always about, offenses that have occurring around the island for various reasons, whether it's, from people, offenses of that nature. Sometimes folks want to keep it private. For some reason, they don't want things that we don't want to talk about. Sometimes it's reported it's of a minimal nature and so forth. Now, let's get into the frequent reported categories, to say, of sexual offenses. Who would like to chime in on that? What are those categories of those offenses that are frequently reported?
Okay, so let me say good morning to our viewers and listeners, and it is really a pleasure for us to be here this morning to share this information. And to answer your question directly, some of the areas, we'll talk about this year in particular, the start of the year so far, because we already finished a quarter. Mm-hmm. And for the first quarter of the year, the offenses that are most prevalent are indecent assault, sexual intercourse with persons between 13 and 16 years, and rape. These are the three most prevalent matters for us for the year 2023 so far.
All right.
I just want to add here, though, before we continue, that we have realized a 62% contraction in those offenses for the first quarter of the year so far when compared to last year.
To previous year, to
yes,
last year.
Yes, to last year, yeah.
To last year's statistics. Mm-hmm. All right. Now, in terms of the frequency report, let's just get into, maybe for the benefit of the viewers and listeners over here. How is the process of this really done? Someone commits an offense. How is that process taken care of?
Right. So, the process of these matters, when it's are to be dealt with, once the police have received an information of a sexual violation, we try to understand what category of offense it falls into. Mm-hmm. And by that, as identified by our inspector, is that it may fall in the category of rape, indecent assault, sexual assault, and we try to have these persons come in, and we have a face-to-face interaction with them. We have what necessary actions to be taken regards to medical statements, witness statements, and soon as thereafter we do our apprehension of these perpetrators.
How do you also categorize it in terms of knowing that if it's the offense is one of as you mentioned different categories? How do you actually categorize when that report is actually made?
Well, every offense has what we refer to as points to prove.
Okay.
The most serious one, rape. The points to prove of that rape is to understand there must be penetration of the genital organ. And the law speaks to the vagina or the anus has been included as being a genital organ. And once there is penetration to a person, whether male or female, and it's without their consent. Consent could even also be considered in respect to the person's ability to refuse a sexual violation. By that, if the person is intoxicated to the point they are unable to give a response, then it considered rape. If they are forced, right, and things like those. So the basis of this is just understanding that the points of proof for each offense in regards to rape, it must be without the consent and penetration. In the case of indecent assault, there must be some level of indecency against a person, whether it be touching, accompanied with some form of language or not. In the case of sexual assault, that's one that happens a lot, and I believe some person are not so much understand the consequences of committing offenses like these too. Because sexual assault is you can use your body to insert in a person's genital organ, like use an object, or use the own person's body to penetrate that person's sexual organ. Right. You can use an object, you can use your finger, and so forth. Right. You know. So
I mean, and it could be as simple as somebody could accuse you of sexual assault by simply bouncing into them. Yeah, I mean, how could that?
Well, investigation must come into play. But that's why we need to be cognizant and understand that our interaction, our contact with people, have to be respectful. And we're speaking here accidental, right?
And knowing your boundaries.
Knowing your boundaries, yes. You need to understand that. Because by itself bumping into someone, not intentionally, then that's one of the major points. It must be your intention to cause some form of violation. You know, but if it's your intention and you do that, then...
And there must be some indecency involved. So that is why when we do public education, we speak about the areas, especially to the younger population. We speak about areas where persons shouldn't touch you, and we tell you who should touch you there and when they should touch you there. So we're talking about the private areas, including, of course, the genital organs, the vagina, the penis. Then we talk about the buttocks, the breasts, that all these areas are private areas, and that only specific persons should touch you there and for specific purposes.
Okay.
Yes, so just a normal bouncing into.
I mean, because it happens, because I have had someone done that before when they were reporting someone, and the individual said, I just bounced her. You understand? And she was claiming that she was assaulted. You understand? So that's why I come across, just sort of brought up the question to get a little bit of a clarification in how far that could go.
Right.
And just a minor bounce could, and maybe it was not intentional.
Right.
But sometimes folks may like to push it a little bit for various reasons. You understand?
And that's where the investigation comes in.
There.
Yeah.
Understandable. Now let's talk a wee bit about statistics this morning in terms of those particular crimes. If anyone could share statistics for me.
So for this period, the first quarter of the year so far, we recorded 21 indecent assaults. We had, and for me, that's way too many. In the category of sexual intercourse with persons between 13 and 16 years, we recorded 18 offenses for that quarter. And for rape, we had 10 for that quarter.
And we're talking 2023.
Yeah, we're concentrating on these three in particular because these are the ones that are at the top of the list right now. Of course, there are others like, as Kutain alluded to earlier, sexual assault and the violation of privacy and child pornography. So there are other offenses, but we concentrating on these three because these are the three most prevalent ones within the first quarter of the year.
How concerned is of course the special victim units pertaining to these statistics? How concerned?
We're very concerned. The thing about it is, something we've come to realize is that for every case that is reported to us, there may be 5 or 6 or 7 other cases out there that are not reported. And that's a concern for us, the hesitancy of persons to report those offenses when they happen. There are many reasons why a person may choose not to report such an offense, but the fact remains that if the offense was committed, it's something that you should not keep silent about. And that's one of the messages we get out there too, that these are not offenses that you should keep silent about, but you must tell somebody.
What are some of the reasons that the special victims unit are picking up from victims? Reason why they're not reporting these incidents?
Some persons believe that they would not be believed, especially in the cases of children. Depending on who the perpetrator is, the status of the perpetrator in society, the title that the person holds, etc. A child may tend to believe, if I make a report on this person, nobody would believe me because this is Mr. Whoever or Mrs. Whoever. So nobody would believe me if I make a report. One of the other reasons is that somehow, especially in the case now of our maybe teenage and young adult victims, maybe in some way I caused that to happen. I facilitated the offense happening in some way. And Kutin and I were having a discussion earlier this morning, especially young adult females who accept gifts or accept favors from young men, and then they're forced into a sexually compromising situation, and they believe, well, if I didn't accept the ride to the show, or if I didn't accept the ticket, or if I didn't, so he gave me something, so if he's asking for something now, then I have to comply.
Something has to be in return. And it doesn't always have to lead to that particular whatever the individual is wanting from you.
Exactly.
You understand?
And so for some of those reasons, persons do not report offenses. Some persons do not like the fact that if they report the offense, there would be a court hearing. They would have to speak about this. They would have to confront the individual who did that thing to them that they're so aggrieved about. So there are a few reasons why persons choose not to report those offenses.
What would you like to, say to victims? Maybe there's someone who is listening right now and, have gone through that particular trauma. And is keeping it embedded within them, and they probably wants to speak out for some reason. What kind of advice would you like to offer to them? Anyone of you two would like to chime in with that?
Well, first and foremost, we recognize that being a victim of any sexual assault is very hard to deal with, and it takes a lot of courage coming forward or to speak about it. And with that, our unit, our special victims unit officers there, are very professional and confidential, and they are trained in such a way to handle these matters in the most sensitive way possible. So we encourage persons that if you are a victim or you have knowledge of someone, you can contact our office at 400, our hotline, our main line 4739, 4739, and we would meet you where you are, and we will work with you the best way possible. We also do a lot of referrals and support with our other counterparts, other entities, to enable you and to prepare you going forward in overcoming this issue and addressing it. Because we strongly believe also that with every action there should be consequences, and we should not let persons get away with what they do when it comes to yourself and what is expected of you to live a comfortable life.
Confidentiality is also a major factor in this, where individuals, especially when it comes to victim parts. Some individuals may just wish I could speak to the police and speak to whoever in an authority about this, but but not wanting nobody to know about it.
So hear this, even if you're not sure if what happened to you is a crime, it's okay to call and just speak to us. You don't have to tell us who you are initially. You can just speak to us, tell us what happened, give us the circumstances, then we will be able to inform you. If you realize that what has happened to you is an offense, then of course we would want to know who you are. We would want to help you, because a lot of persons don't realize that the trauma of going through any crime, not just a sexual crime, the trauma of going through any crime can remain with you for a lifetime if it is not properly addressed. So you can imagine, GT, children being victims of crime, let's say at the age of 10, 11, 12. Nothing was done to address the situation. They grow into adults carrying this baggage, carrying this burden, which could affect their lives in a variety of ways, negatively. And they grow up to be adults, and they have to be the next teachers and doctors and police officers and radio announcers and other such persons within our society, but they're carrying this baggage that they have not properly dealt with. You can only imagine, and I can only imagine, what sort of individual that person will be, maybe not even realizing their full potential because of these issues that they're dragging with them from their childhood. So it is very important, and I believe one of the categories where persons are not reporting a lot is the teenage to young adult category. Somehow I believe there is some hesitancy there, because they believe, I'm an adult now, I should be able to handle this, I should be able to take care of it. only to realize that nothing is happening, it's not going away, it's forever in your mind, you're forever dreaming about it, you're forever having flashbacks about it, and it is not going away. So the best thing to do is to come forward. If you don't want to come to the police initially, there are other avenues that you can go to. You can go to the Ministry of Social Development. You can go to other places where persons will eventually lead you to a path of getting healed and getting over that issue.
And there's sometimes instances where, victims become perpetrators themselves.
That's right.
You understand?
Yeah, that's
victims
right.
become perpetrators themselves
Yes.
because you went through that trauma and you just feel like, I just had to act it out just because of the way it occurred to me.
And I believe too, GT, that boys and young men are not reporting too.
Right.
Because we have to come to the reality that our boys and young men are also victims of sexual crimes.
All right. We due for a break in this segment. Let's take it. We're coming right back. It's To The Point for today, Thursday, 18, folks. We're coming right back after break. Stay with us.
On Saturday, July 29, Montrouge Plainfield will be transformed into a sea of grills as food, fun, and friends collide. It's the 10th annual Maggie King of the Grill competition. The best chef and barbecue kings and queens compete for cash, a new grill, and the title of Maggie King of the Grill. Come savor the flavors. Try to bust the ice cold bar and let the kids have their way in the bouncing castles, pony rides, slides, and games. Try your hand at dominoes or the beer and leg competition and win instant cash. Come 7 p.m. you go stateside to enjoy performances from top local acts. It's a whole evening of fun at the Maggie King of the Grill. Saturday, July 29 at the Montrouge Plainfield. Gates open from 12 noon. $10 gets you on the inside. Powered by Maggie, Hot 98, and GBN Television.
Records at the traffic department shows that a total of 1,447 accidents were reported for the year 2012, which includes 3 road fatalities. 2,946 accidents were reported for the year 2022, which includes 8 road fatalities. This is a significant increase of 104%.
Yes, we'll say welcome back to our listeners and viewers. To The Point for today, Thursday, the 18th. With me this morning from the Special Victim Unit, we have for you Inspector Marine John and Constable Kimber Coutain with me this morning. Welcome back with us this morning once again. Now, a topic line I would like us to spend a little bit of time talking about. How concerned is it for the Special Victim Units when it comes to violations of individuals' privacy? In terms of, when we say violation, there are very different ways individual privacy could be violated. How concerned is the Special Victim Unit about that? I don't know who would like to chime in on that.
Well, for the Special Victims Unit, the RGPF by and large have a great concern in respect to this offense, and also with it would be child pornography. For the first quarter of the year so far, 2023, we have seen 4 reports of violation of privacy, and one of that of child pornography. Right? We understand the era in which we are, and with that, we have seen the most victims and even perpetrators being that of among school children. Right? And that is a very much a concern for us.
Let me ask you this: how does the RGPF define violation of someone's privacy?
Not the RGPF, but
not the RGPF, but the Special Victim Unit.
Our laws.
Our laws
Define it.
If I get it right, thanks for correcting me.
Yeah.
How does it get defined?
Well, violation of privacy defined under the Electronic Crimes Act. And with that too, we always like to encourage persons to empower themselves, because the law simply states that ignorance is no excuse of the law. And you can view these laws, legislations on the net. And so you also can acquaint yourself. But violation of privacy is very simple. In simple terms, it'd be defined that if you would have electronically captured any image of a person, private part, the undergarment, the buttocks, the breasts, without the permission or consent of another, then you in fact have violated. It also continues to say that if you distribute, share, or publicize those images or videos without that person consent, then you have committed and liable to that offense.
What if it's been consented for some reason? Someone say, hey, take a picture of me, but then you distribute for some reason or the other.
It falls, yes. So let me give a scenario, right? We have seen many times before that we have partners, and among themselves, to excite whatever interaction they have in a private capacity, they exchange images, right? And that relationship sometimes comes to an end. And the boyfriend, in that case, may, for whatever reason, want to humiliate or show off and share those images on social media or to another partner. That is violation of privacy. Even if it's sent to you with consent, you don't have the permission to share to another. And that is a violation of that person's privacy.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
And it carries a very steep penalty, to be honest.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you this. Well, I mean, what kind of, trouble, if we say it in layman terms, individual could run into for that?
Right, so if a person contravenes this act, you can be fined up to $200,000 Eastern Caribbean currency, or serve a term of imprisonment of 7 years, or to both. So if you, and I must pause, one of the most frequent scenarios we have seen is at the schools and sometimes among teachers, not understanding what they're doing. They may see a video, and because of maybe the excitement, the amusement at the time, they will share it to another person. And share. And
that's a problem.
That is a problem.
For stats or for stats.
Yeah. So that's a serious problem. And if you do that, then it's $200,000 fine.
Okay, from time to time we see these things happening where someone have a video of someone that is a little bit X-rated for whatever reason, and then they just keep going around and going around and going around, and then a vast majority of the video happen, and then you see it comes down to the victims themselves now becoming uncomfortable for whatever reason about that. So let's get into the point of where, in terms of tips that you would like to especially preventative tips you would like to advocate on, especially for individuals who are going to...
And even before we talk about the preventative tips, as Kutain said, this is a major concern for us that our school children are so, I like to say, they have a heightened sexual appetite. An appetite for sexually explicit things. We hear it when we interact with them. We see it when we have the opportunity to confiscate their gadgets. And it seems as though there is just this heightened sexual, I don't know what I want to call it, a drive. I don't know, it's like a wave of something that is going around our school children. And we're very concerned about that. And it leads us to wonder, what is the foundation of their sexual education? Who is the first person to educate them about sex and what it's supposed to be? And we're hoping and we're believing and we're thinking that it should start at home, where parents take the time to speak to their children about these things, so that their first lessons would not come from their peers and from the media and from the internet, where a lot of it is coming from these days. We had an opportunity about 3 weeks ago to engage about 30 boys alone, secondary school age boys. And I felt like I needed to be cleansed when I came from that room.
Or re-educate yourself about these things yourself.
Something like that. Because you hear the content, you hear what comes from the mouths of these young men, and you become frightened, you become very concerned about the state of our young ladies who are going to interact with these young men. And it is a real cause for concern. And so parents here, we're starting with parents when it comes to prevention. Parents have to take responsibility for their children. And I think a lot of the population is aware now that when we speak of children, we're talking about persons who have not yet attained the age of 18 years.
Yes.
But in our context, if they're still 18 but they're dependent on you for their survival, then they're still a child, right? Now, parents have to take responsibility in a big way for the proper education of their children as it relates to sex and the sexual offenses and the fact that there are sexual predators out there. That's one, education. Two, who monitors your child's electronic device?
Because I was just thinking of a question, you know, we didn't want to go into the preventative measures yet. And I was just thinking, how concerned is the special victim unit in terms of the social media influence?
I wish every child in Grenada had no access to social media and to electronic devices that could connect to the internet. I think we would have a much better society if that is the case.
Speaking to youngsters and even victims, especially the youngsters these days, how have they been stating where the majority of the influence comes from?
Of course. And you go to primary schools. We do presentations at primary schools, secondary schools, at every level we go. And you ask, sometimes we just ask them because we talk about violation of privacy as well. And you ask, let me see all the TikTokers. And there are few hands left down. And you ask, let me see the Instagrammers. Primary school children we're talking about. And one of the concerns for us is that when these children become victims and they come to us, I met him on Instagram. I started following him on Instagram. They won't sue me enough for calling their name. I started following him on Instagram. And that's where the relationships and so get started on social media. And then eventually the chatting is not enough, so we need to meet in person. And some of them are alarmed when they realize that the person they're going to meet is not the image that was projected on social media. So you're going to meet an adult thinking it was somebody around the same age with you.
Your age range.
Because that's the profile that they project. So it's dangerous out there. And parents, to me, sometimes don't seem to realize that until the reality comes to their doorstep.
I mean, and you've seen a lot of it in terms of we've seen youngsters who may probably run away for whatever reasons, the influences they get from elderly individuals. I mean, how concerned is that also for the special victim unit?
Well, I must say that everything that happens with a child in respect to the sexual endeavors or interactions, it is a concern because one report in itself is one too much, you know. And yes, it is a concern for us in respect to the question you asked. And this is why too I must add that what Inspector would have spoke in regards to the aspect of meeting people on the internet. There are a lot of grooming going on, and we want parents to be involved in the children's life, know who they are, know the device, have control, have access. We know for a fact children these days are born with a medical card and a device in their hand, you know, and so to speak, they know about devices more than the adults.
So true.
It's our business to know.
And they get to spend more time on devices than their parents, most times.
So parents being involved with it in a child or children's life, it is a concern for all of us. And we like to say that crime is everyone's business, and protecting our young ones is everyone's business.
How is it important it is for parents to of course pay attention, especially to the ratings in terms of content that their sons and daughters use, especially on social media? Should parents be an important part in that, in terms of knowing whatever content their son or daughters are paying attention to online? Should parents really put a lot of energy into that, or you would like to encourage parents to put a lot of energy into that? Definitely.
And a child may say to you, a parent, I'm playing a game, but what is the content of the game? And some parents, they're so happy that it's just a game the child playing, so they don't pay attention. And some of these games in themselves, the content, they're full of violence, in some instances, also there is sexually explicit content in some of these games that the children play. Some of the games lead them to chat rooms, and that's a concern. And a parent should, if your child tells you they're playing a game, you want to know what is the name of the game. And as a parent, you need to use the internet to your advantage. So the child won't tell you the content of the game, then you need to go and search for yourself and see whether or not this is something that you would want your child to be involved in. What we have, though, are many parents who are afraid to say no to their children because they're afraid of the tantrums and they're afraid that maybe their child would hit them or something like that. But you have to take responsibility. This is your child. And eventually, when trouble comes, it's going to come to your door. So the more you can prevent the trouble from coming to your door, it is better for you. And I see parents who purchase devices for their children, and they themselves, they don't even know how to put that device on or to take it off.
Or even activate the parental control mechanism.
Or anything like that, you know. And that is unwise, in my opinion, and that's a practice that parents should not engage in. If you're going to give your child a device, there has to come some responsibility, not just on the part of the child, but on your part as well as the parent.
But it's certainly very fruitful information because myself, I have two young sons, and for some reason, a couple of days ago, they always on looking at particular things on YouTube, and which I thought was educational for them. You understand? And I to be honest, sometimes I don't pay the attention to it because sometimes you want a little distraction for yourself. You understand? I'll be honest. Sometimes you let them go ahead and for some reason I was paying attention to what the content they were speaking about, and I realized it was not rated for their age range. You understand? And I'm looking at cartoon characters that they're displaying on the screen. So I'm thinking, well, it's cartoon stuff they're looking at, but not paying attention. No, I'm listening to the conversation individuals are having. And it was way off from, talking about going on dates and stuff like that within in cartoon characters. And I was like, this is it. So I had to get that off and make sure I that never comes up again, put my parental control on it. I mean, which I usually do, but somehow I just slipped on that. It just so happened I say, well, thank God I was there to hear it at the time.
Of course.
And because it's something interesting that you for yourself as a parent may say, yeah, it's okay, they can look at it, but not really paying attention to the content and what they were speaking of. And that's where the concern comes in.
Of course.
All right. We do further the break. Let's take it. We're also going to offer opportunity as we move along for, of course, our listeners and viewers. If you do have a question or two, feel free to call in. We will certainly accept your calls also. But let's take a break in this segment, folks. We're coming right back. Stay with us here on To The Point.
Records at the traffic department shows that a total of 1,447 accidents were reported for the year 2012, which includes 3 road fatalities. 2,946 accidents were reported for the year 2022, which includes 8 road fatalities. This is a significant increase of 104%. This is alarming. When a family tragically loses a loved one, does it matter whether by means of a gun or a motor vehicle? To avoid accidents, drivers and pedestrians alike must exercise extreme caution when using the road.
COVID-19 spreads from person to person through the droplets that are produced when someone coughs or sneezes, which makes it easy to
Welcome back, listeners and viewers, to the point for today, Thursday. Before we move on, let's entertain our call because this individual has been calling for a while. Let's see what they have to offer. Caller, good morning, welcome.
Good morning. Yes, sir. No, I'm poor. I guess this lady is vulnerable and similar to me. So it's somewhat is poor. And a lot of us, as I say, are poor. Now we have, as people would say, small little houses, small and yet illegal houses. So then, and you have 8 children in your house. You only have 2 rooms. And then you have little holes where you cock up with little cloth. And the child hearing mommy or daddy screaming. Do you think the child would look into the little hole and see mommy and daddy's action? When I say screaming for joy. Not so you think that after a time, the child or the children would experiment because they want the same sensation possible that they are hearing. And this transmitted to them doing possibly same act, or venturing themselves into the same act. So we have to look at that. At the same time, some parents, they do not know how to educate their children. When I say educate, I don't mean to say reading 2 and knowing 2 and 2 is 4, you know. They do not know the right thing to do because they see people doing the wrong things in the environment. So these things influence the children's behavior. So we are criticizing perhaps the parents. So not the parents, the children. So we have to criticize and educate the parents. Have seminars with the parents. Tell them how they have to behave in their home. How they should appreciate their children. In fact, some parents tell their children, cuss him a word when he's young. And they laugh when the child cuss you. I hope you're understanding me. And this is what creating some of the problems. To me, I might transfer what I said. I have an experience now with people like these people because I'm talking about what they should do. People like those who are sitting with you. And I've been constantly harassed on the road. Even yesterday, I've been stopped asking me for license when my vehicle is licensed. That's the type of...
Caller, good morning. I think the conversation we're having this morning is not pertaining to traffic or anything of this nature, so I don't think your conversation is going along in that direction. So when you're dealing with the subject matter, maybe you could call us back, because I don't think our conversation is dealing in terms of obtaining license and stuff like that. Let's entertain another caller. Good morning to you. Good morning, caller. Welcome.
Hi, good morning. And morning to your guests. I just want to be brief on a point, and I wanted to ask your 2 police officers there, if they believe that justice delayed is justice denied, because that's a common saying, right, in the delivery of justice. And my reason for saying this is simply because I had assisted a young lady in reporting a possible rape to the police. Now, I called Special Victims Unit. We were put on to Miss Cadet. Miss Cadet assigned an officer, a female officer whose name I will not call. The alleged perpetrator was a taxi driver, or is still a taxi driver. He is originally from Carriacou. He was residing down in Granans at the time and was providing taxi service to a restaurant on the beach down in Granans. Now, he had the responsibilities of dropping the employees at home. He passed through the back road. I'm giving you specifics because I'm well aware of it. He passed through the back road that's Dung Dusty, and he went up towards the back of Lansapin. That is where the alleged act took place. Yes. The victim sought medical assistance as well as other forms of assistance. And I can tell you, Gigi, the manner in which the female investigating officer was conducting herself, it had somewhat, discouraged the individual up to this day. Yeah, the investigating parties have not, and I'm telling you this, so you know, they never even got back to the victim to give her an update as to what took place, how the investigation went. Instead, the female officer, you know, was given attitude. There was another officer who was a very close friend, a male officer who was a very close friend of the alleged perpetrator. My name is Kevin Frederick, and I'm telling you this. I work at the Ministry of Health, and I'm not lying, because I have the facts. Right now, the individual has traveled. You know why? Yeah. Because she felt that she was let down by our justice system. And I'm giving you facts because, as I said, this is what happened. And I'm telling you my name because that is exactly what happened. Have a good day.
Thank you, caller. Any response to the matter from officers? Anyone gets to respond to this?
And what I would say that it is unfortunate that something like this happened, but it would be instructive to find out all the intricacies, everything that happened from the time of the report to the time of the person leaving the state. From my knowledge, we try to be very thorough when those reports come to us to ensure that the investigations take place effectively and efficiently. So it's unfortunate that that happened. And interestingly, he used alleged rape. So there may be other circumstances which would have led to that conclusion. But it would be interesting to know all the facts before we could make a summation on this matter.
Okay. Let's entertain another caller. Caller, good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Lucy, and good morning to the officer. I was triggered to call when I heard the officer said something to the effect that she wished we didn't have social media. The thing about it, every day on social media, there will be some other avenues that where these things will happen. What we have to do as a society is, first of all, become honest. We are very dishonest, pretentious. I mean, I don't even know words to find what we are, to describe who we are. So first of all, we need to become radically honest and then learn to face responsibility. We have to educate ourselves to be responsible. So it's hard to ask in a person who all their life wasn't responsible to become responsible all of a sudden because they have children. And so we need to ask ourselves, how do we do education? How do we do socializing of our society, in our society? And it is based on hypocrisy, trust me. So I don't want to be too negative this morning, but we could hold other accountable, because I don't know the circumstance of the caller, but we know a lot of situations where people are raped and nothing happened because we're afraid. I mean, the thing about it is that in the first instance, I think it goes back to the denial and the confusion, denial of self and the confusion of who we are. We are told that, first of all, our coming here is an act of sin. Okay? So we're in trouble. So we're trying our best, okay, and we are confused, then we have nobody to guide us as, parents and teachers, they're confused themselves, the teachers are confused. So, to me, I think we need to step back and ask ourselves some fundamental questions. What is our role in this continuing confusion? Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller. Thank you for your contribution. I'm not sure if any of the officers want to respond to the caller.
When I made the comment about not having social media, I didn't speak generally. I spoke about our children, in particular, being exposed so much to social media and what comes with it.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's entertain one more caller within this segment. We drew for a break. Let's take this caller, then we come back. Caller, good morning and welcome.
Yeah, good morning. I believe all what Kevin Frederick says, that is true. I believe that. Thank you very much.
All right, caller. Thank you also. Before we move on, let's because we are a bit strapped for time. Just approximately 10 minutes left on today's program. Now, let me speak of sensitive issues that are reported. Let's in terms of do we keep the victim's information confidential, especially when it relates to minors and so forth, from the special victim point of view?
We are mandated to do that. There are protocols that we follow which mandate that this information be kept sensitive. So as much as it lies within us, that's what we do. Remember, Kutin alluded to earlier that we work along with other stakeholders in the field. So, for example, the Child Protection Authority, the Ministry of Social Development, and in the cases of children, we ensure that the Child Protection Authority is with us step by step in the process to ensure that the interest of the child is never just left in the wind. So, yes, we follow protocols. Yes, we ensure that these sensitive matters are kept sensitive.
And also the issue in terms of providing, preventative tips. We had to speak about that when we got into the phone calls. I still would like you to, for the benefit of the listening viewing public out there, offer them some preventative tips in terms of could help them eliminate themselves from getting in problems of that nature.
Well, both of us will chime in here.
Go right ahead.
So one of it is, of course, what we've been speaking about all morning, being aware. Being aware of what is a crime, especially as it relates to our unit of sexual crime. Being aware is very important. Making children aware is very important. And that you should not just leave it up to the institutions in the nation to do that, but from a family standpoint, it's something that you should employ to ensure that children are aware of what is out there and what's happening.
When you say being aware, you're talking from a parent point of view?
Yeah, well, parent, children, everybody. There needs to be that awareness that if somebody does that, it is a crime. If somebody takes that sort of action against me, it is a crime. So that awareness, that's one of the things. That's one of the ways to prevent yourselves from becoming victims of those crimes. We speak about, too, in the case of alcohol consumption and other, not just alcohol, but other substances that can alter your judgment and the way you function, the way you think, could also make you vulnerable to being a victim of a crime, but it can also cause you to become a perpetrator of a crime because you're under the influence of alcohol or other substances. So that's one of the things we, especially around festive periods, especially around the time when there is a big show, when there is something happening, we have seen where persons under the influence of alcohol are victims and sometimes afterwards are not even aware of exactly what happened to them. Then we talk about females in particular trying to avoid areas that would make them susceptible or vulnerable. Again, we talk about after events and so on. How are you getting home? How are you in the right frame of mind to be alone to get home safely? Or is it better if you have somebody with you? It would be more difficult for someone to sexually assault you in some way if you're with company than if you are alone. Additionally, chime in whenever. Additionally, we speak about persons being aware of their surroundings. You could be home and somebody could be looking around. Being aware of your surroundings is very important. Having proper, well, as we put it broadly, target hardening, making it difficult for persons to commit those crimes against you. So proper lighting, proper structures around your business places. And we talk about business places and it brings to our minds immediately the fact that some of these offenses happen at workplaces. Setting boundaries with your colleagues, setting boundaries with those who you work with, let them know I won't tolerate certain behavior from you. And we have seen instances like these where persons at workplaces are indecently assaulted, etc. So it's about being aware, it's about paying attention to your surroundings, setting boundaries, and letting your no be that. So when you say no, when I say no, that's what I mean. So that persons don't twist your words or anything like that because you're not very assertive about it.
Okay. Constable Goodin, any Corporal Goodin, sorry?
Well, I like to put it...
Yeah,
that's okay. I like to put it this way. Make yourself a hard target, right? Make your children a hard target. Especially young children, I like to advise that you let them know the good touch, bad touch. Because with knowledge comes power. When they know the private parts, the names, and what's supposed to happen as opposed to what's not supposed to happen, who's supposed to touch them as opposed to who's not supposed to touch them and where. And they have that knowledge and confidence in themselves. They make themselves a hard target. And adults, nothing I can see respect to that is just understanding, applying wisdom and most of the time common sense in every aspect of life.
All right. Let's entertain another caller this morning. Caller, good morning. Welcome.
Yeah, good morning. I reached in late, so I don't know. I don't get the right from the starting.
Caller, you may have to lower the radio in the background and probably get back to us. 435-2041, 435-2041. We still have time to maybe accommodate one caller or two if they come really quickly, and then we summarize our today's program. Caller, good morning, welcome.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
I thought the lady constable said that people who have become victims of rape or sometimes, is that they carry this baggage to life. They carry it because they don't want to expose it, they don't want. But I just want to say to people who might be experiencing those things, the constable is very correct, they don't want things, but there is someone who they can talk to. It may not be popular, it may not be acceptable to people, but there is someone you can tell your secret, and that person can do something on your inside. They can give you the strength on the inside to cope with whatsoever situation you can find yourself in. And that person is the Lord Jesus Christ. People don't want to hear as though we're pushing more and more out of society, rather invite him in. And that's why society is so chaotic, because God is missing. So any young person, you find yourself as a victim of certain circumstances and you're desperate, you don't know what to do, you're not happy, some people even threaten to take their own life, you don't have to go that far. You don't have to do this. There is a God you can call on, and he is as real as your hand in front of your face. It's that we are the ones that ignoring him, but he is there to help, to deliver, to protect, but we don't call on him. He's with us everywhere we are, but we don't call him. He's not telling the devil to push himself on you or to intrude on you when you don't want him. He waits. He said, call upon me and I will answer. So young people everywhere, who, no matter what your problem is, you have someone who can help. And that person is Jesus Christ. Seek him. He says, seek ye the Lord while he may be found. Call upon him while he is near. Let the unrighteous forsake his ways. Let the wicked forsake his ways and his unrighteous.
Caller, take another 10 seconds and wrap, please.
And so I'm encouraging people, do not leave God out of your life. It don't matter what. He is the only answer for world and life. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much. Inspector, of course, John, and Corporal Coutain, we get into the stage of the program we wrap. Just around 2 more minutes left this morning. I don't know if any final comments you'd like to make in terms of summarizing today's conversation before we take a wrap for today.
Sure. I just want to say here that no matter what your experience has been, you may have had an experience that was not so nice, to put it that way, in dealing with the police before, because, things happen. Sometimes not well orchestrated, but things happen, and we are aware of that. So you may have had a bad experience before, or maybe you're tentative about coming to the police about information like that, because, who wants to put their last sexual experience, who want to sit down and pour that out to another individual that you do not really know? But that's one of the steps. That's one of the steps that you take to get help as an individual, and we encourage you to do that for your own sake and for the sake of allowing us to help you to the point where that perpetrator can be brought to justice.
Okay.
So the Special Victims Unit, we are there. We are available to persons. We are available. There are many persons who have been served by us and can say that they are well pleased with the service that we provide, and we want to continue to provide that service as best as possible as it lies within us. So don't be afraid to contact us. As I said, even though you're not too aware of whether or not what happened to you is a crime, you can call us and we can discuss it with you and we can inform you about the next steps to take. So don't be afraid to contact us, and Also, we encourage persons to be a part of what we're doing in terms of reaching out to us for educational activities. If you want us to speak with a group, you want us to come to your church, you want us to come to your community group, wherever you are, we're going to find ourselves there to give that education and sensitization, because we believe that it is important for our nation.
All right, thank you so much. Good. Any final closing comments?
Yes, so I say thank you very much to the public and for the callers, some valid points. We welcome also the criticism. We're only recognizing that we'll be able to serve our public better going forward and bring those offenders to justice and serve our people. For any concerns going forward, you feel free to call us at our toll-free number 400, our straight line number 440-4739, or the CID, which is 440-3129. 3921, I apologize. Any nearest police station, right? We are there to serve, and we will continue to do so. Thank you.
All right. I want to thank you both for being with us this morning here on To The Point and sharing information that you did share. Very fruitful information indeed. Hey, folks, you could join us again for another edition of To The Point. That will be tomorrow, once the Almighty permits. Have yourself a good day, folks. As I always encourage, be good to yourself and others. All the best. Join us again for another edition of To The Point.